Right. Let's dive into this explainer on the incredible Indian gooseberry. And we're actually going to start with a truly bizarre scientific study. For thousands of years, Ayurvedic medicine has absolutely revered this fruit, claiming it can do everything from fighting cancer to acting as a hair tonic. But when modern researchers finally decided to put these ancient claims to the test, they started in a pretty unconventional place. So, what exactly does fruit fly mating have to do with human lifespan? I know, it sounds like a total joke, right? But researchers actually introduced male and female fruit flies into a specialized mating chamber just to test the effects of dietary amla. They literally sat there with a stopwatch to measure the results. The sheer scale of this change is just wild. The fruit flies given amla actually dropped their mating latency, meaning the time it takes for them to, get busy, from 10 seconds down to 7. Plus, amla extended their average mating duration to almost 30 minutes. And on top of that, they laid significantly more eggs that successfully hatched into larvae. Now, while a potent aphrodisiac effect in flies is a pretty hilarious icebreaker, you're probably not looking for a way to breed more maggots. You want to know what this means for human health. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Meet the Indian gooseberry, 2. Amla versus prescription drugs, 3. Whole body health benefits, 4. How to eat amla, and finally, 5. Side effects and precautions. We're going to start with the basics, move through some heavy-hitting clinical trials, and finish up with practical DIY recipes and safety warnings. Section 1. Meet the Indian gooseberry. Let's take a quick look at what this humble green fruit actually is. The crucial thing to grasp here is its explosive nutritional baseline. Dried amla powder has up to 100 times the antioxidants of blueberries by weight. 100 times. That literally makes it the #1 most antioxidant-rich single whole food on the planet. And if you're looking at vitamin C, just 100 grams of fresh amla packs the equivalent vitamin C of 20 oranges. One single berry can basically give you 80% of your daily requirement. Let's break down the chemistry real quick to understand exactly how this works. Amla is absolutely packed with phenolic compounds, tannins, and flavonoids. Basically, these act as super powerful antioxidants, which means they fight off oxidative stress and free radicals in your body. When comparing different processing methods, testing shows that freeze-dried amla powder is actually the scientifically superior way to retain these potent, disease-fighting compounds. Section 2, Amla versus prescription drugs. Now, it's one thing for a fruit to be packed with vitamins, but it's another entirely for it to go head-to-head with major pharmaceutical drugs in human trials. Let's set up an objective clinical comparison. In these trials, researchers pitted amla directly against simvastatin, which you might know as Zocor, a leading cholesterol-lowering drug. The drug produced a 10 to 15% drop in total and LDL cholesterol. But get this, so did the amla, and the dose they used was only 500 milligrams. That is just a tenth of a teaspoon. The raw powder completely matched the drug's performance for about 5 cents a day, and it did it without the well-known potential side effects of statins, like muscle damage or liver dysfunction. When they tested it against Lipitor, they found similar 15% drops, though for that specific trial, researchers did use a slightly more expensive amla extract. But it gets even crazier when you look at patients who really needed intervention. Diabetic subjects starting with an average cholesterol over 200 were given just half a teaspoon of raw amla powder daily. They saw a massive 35 to 45% drop in cholesterol in just 3 weeks. To put that into perspective in the medical world, achieving those kinds of results normally takes about 6 months on a strict statin drug regimen. What about heart protection, though? While amla cuts C-reactive protein levels, that's a major marker of inflammation, literally in half. In studies comparing amla extract to standard blood-thinning drugs like aspirin and Plavix, amla achieved about 75% of their platelet-inhibiting effect. This safely increased bleeding and clotting time, which is exactly what you want if you have a stent you don't want clogging up. But crucially, amla didn't thin the blood outside the normal range, so it prevented any undue risk of major bleeding. Taking this heart protection even a step further, in an ice water test where patients plunged their hands into freezing water, amla actually prevented the severe arterial constriction and blood pressure spikes normally triggered by that intense pain. Looking at all this, you might be wondering, if the raw powder is so cheap and effective, why do drug companies test patented amla extracts at 50 cents a day instead of the 5-cent raw powder?
It really just comes down to mechanics and economics. Multi-million-dollar clinical trials require massive funding. Without the possibility of synthesizing patentable derivatives, the pharmaceutical industry literally cannot invest in the research because their shareholders wouldn't allow it. It's simply the nature of the industry. Patents are required to fund the science that proves clinical relevance.
Section 3, Whole Body Health Benefits. Let's see how this goes way beyond just cholesterol and heart disease and actually offers systemic protection from head to toe. Amla basically acts like a protective shield for your entire body. Starting with the cardiovascular system, it protects your endothelium, performing just as well as leading drugs while simultaneously lowering both fasting and post-meal blood sugar in diabetic patients. This protective effect extends right down to your cellular health. It improves mitochondrial function in the eyes to prevent macular degeneration, stops the breakdown of skin collagen, and even blocks the enzymes responsible for hair loss. Plus, it supercharges your immune system by boosting specialized phagocytes that fight off invaders, while its powerful phytochemicals stop cancer cells from mutating before potential tumors can even start. Section 4. How to eat amla. So now that we understand the deep science and the incredible biological mechanisms at play, let's learn how to actually get this very sour tart fruit into your daily routine. If you can actually get your hands on fresh amla, here's a quick 3-minute detox juice recipe for you. You just blend 3 to 4 seeded amlas with a little ginger, salt, and water. Strain out the pulp and then stir in a teaspoon of honey. That honey and ginger combination perfectly balances the intense tartness of the berries. You're going to want to drink this fresh immediately to get the maximum antioxidant benefits, ideally an hour before or after lunch. But let's be real here. Grating and deseeding fresh fruit takes a lot of time. If you're running late for work, you can easily just use a teaspoon of organic, freeze-dried amla powder. Just check the label to make sure it's a single-ingredient product with no artificial colors or additives. You can mix it instantly into a glass of water or blend its sour flavor with milk or coconut cream in a smoothie. Alternatively, you can always enjoy it in traditional Indian preparations like a pickled achar or a sweet marmalade like amla maraba with saffron and cardamom. Section 5, Side Effects and Precautions. Finally, to give you a truly complete and grounded profile of this fruit, we absolutely have to cover the necessary safety precautions. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's without side effects. While it is incredibly healthy, you definitely need to use some caution because amla is so high in vitamin C, it's highly acidic and can trigger hyperacidity or stomach issues if you eat too much of it. Also, as we saw in the clinical data, it is an effective blood thinner, so you absolutely have to stop taking it before any surgery to avoid increased bleeding risks. Interestingly enough, amla naturally lowers your body temperature, meaning it can actually worsen your symptoms if you already have a cold. Consuming it in overly high quantities can cause constipation, and most importantly, if you're currently taking prescription heart medications, you've got to consult your doctor before adding amla to your diet to prevent any interactions. So, from extending the stamina of fruit flies to going toe-to-toe with leading statins in clinical trials, the data paints a pretty undeniable picture. The only question left is this. At roughly 5 cents a day, is it time you added this ancient superfood to your modern routine?